In the early hours of June 17, 1972, 5 men were arrested inside the Democratic National Committee headquarters in Washington, D.C. They weren't common criminals. These men were carrying sophisticated bugging equipment, bundles of cash, and notebooks filled with coded messages. At first glance, it seemed like a bungled burglary. But this break-in would become the first domino in one of the greatest political scandals in American history. The Watergate scandal. No one knew it at the time, but that night would ultimately lead to the fall of a U.S. president. The arrested men were quickly connected to President Richard Nixon's re-election campaign, a group known by its ominous acronym, CREEP, the Committee to Re-elect the President. It turned out the burglars had been sent to plant wiretaps and steal documents to spy on Nixon's political opponents. The mission had been authorized by high-ranking officials inside the administration. This wasn't just politics, it was espionage from inside the White House. At first, Nixon tried to distance himself. He appeared on television, looking confident and presidential, assuring the public that the White House had nothing to do with the break-in. He even famously declared, "I am not a crook." But behind closed doors, Nixon and his aides were scrambling. They were paying hush money, destroying evidence, and directing the CIA to shut down the FBI investigation. It was a full-blown cover-up, designed to protect the presidency and Nixon's image. But what Nixon didn't count on was 2 persistent reporters from the Washington Post, Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein. These 2 young journalists began connecting the dots, following the money, and publishing a series of damning articles. Their secret informant, known only as Deep Throat, whispered tips from inside the FBI. With every new headline, the conspiracy grew deeper, and the White House grew more nervous. Meanwhile, the legal walls were closing in. Judges, prosecutors, and congressional committees began investigating the scandal. One of Nixon's own lawyers, John Dean, turned whistleblower and testified before the Senate. He told the world that the president had been directly involved in the cover-up. It was a shocking revelation, and the beginning of the end. Then came the tapes. During the hearings, it was discovered that Nixon had secretly recorded nearly every conversation in the Oval Office. These tapes could prove everything, or exonerate him completely. Nixon refused to hand them over. He claimed executive privilege. The battle over the tapes went all the way to the Supreme Court, which unanimously ruled that the president must comply. Under immense pressure, Nixon finally released the recordings. One of them, known as the smoking gun tape, captured Nixon just days after the break-in, instructing his staff to tell the CIA to stop the FBI's investigation. It was undeniable proof that the President of the United States had tried to obstruct justice. The fallout was immediate. Senior members of Nixon's staff were indicted or resigned. Impeachment proceedings began in Congress. Even Nixon's staunchest defenders abandoned him. Facing almost certain removal from office, Richard Nixon made a stunning decision. On August 8, 1974, he addressed the nation from the Oval Office. With a heavy voice and visible emotion, he announced that he would resign the presidency. The next day, he boarded a helicopter on the White House lawn and waved a final goodbye. For the first time in American history, a president had resigned a victory. His successor, Gerald Ford, would later grant Nixon a full pardon, a move that divided the nation. Some saw it as a necessary step toward healing, others believed it was a betrayal of justice. But Watergate left scars that never fully healed. It shattered public trust in government and redefined the role of the press in American democracy. The scandal birthed a new era of skepticism and a new language. From that moment on, every scandal, no matter how unrelated, would carry the suffix "gate." Watergate wasn't just about a break-in, it was about the abuse of power. It was about a president who believed he was above the law, and a system that ultimately proved he was not. It was a story of lies, paranoia, loyalty, betrayal, and the resilience of democratic institutions. And it all began with 5 men in a dark office building and a piece of tape on a door.